I suggest to speak this way, because if you move,
So we need to focus on.
yes, you have to focus here.
I don't sit down very well. I always stand up.
Okay,
Maybe
I can give you this one.
Yeah, maybe you
Okay.
use that.
We speak. Your speech is the.
Importance of being open.
Okay, so for that moment.
So you can do it.
So then I show you how it works. You just press this red button. Okay. When you okay, now is
It's okay.
it's okay.
Okay.
And then just for closing, press.
Perfect. Thank you. That's right. I need I call it my mouth box. Mouth box.
It's okay. You have enough chair. Otherwise, you take another one. Just. I go checking when we can start.
swear me in.
Yes, sure.
Noi vorremmo cominciare in modo da diciamo, non accumulare i ritardi che poi ci portano a sforare su tutto. Okay, so the session of today has the title Esperienze internazionali di Moodle, so international experience of Moodle, and we have the guest here. I will introduce you one by one before each speech. So the first is Phill Miller, and his speech will be importance of being open. That is a particular good title for our conference. Phill Miller is the Vice President of the International Open Source Service Blackboard, and he has 10 years of experience in strategy and implementation of online education platform, and is specialized in the management of open source platform. But first of all, before giving him the floor, I would like to thank Moodle Rooms because he gave us the platform, and he gave us also the opportunity to collaborate the web platform in which we made all the web conference in the week before this meeting. And so I remind you that we made a lot of web conference from Monday to Friday last week, and all these conferences are recorded and are in the YouTube channel. And we made all this job using their platform. So thanks again. Here there is the microphone, and you can start. You will stay, okay.
Good morning. Thank you very much for letting us be a part of your conference. We've enjoyed the last several days of getting to know you. We have our friend Paolo as our local person here, and we have some partners that are here with us as well. Today I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing at Moodle Rooms and Blackboard at a kind of a global level, and give you some perspective on why we feel so strongly about open education. So many people don't realize this. You see from my title here, I am the Vice President of Moodle Rooms, but I work for a company called Blackboard, and many of you have probably heard of Blackboard. What you probably don't know is that Blackboard is the largest contributor to Moodle in the world. Blackboard has given more money, we've given more code, we've sponsored more events for Moodle than any other company in the history of Moodle. And we do that through our Moodle Rooms platform. And we're delighted to be a part of your conference today to talk about Moodle and to talk about open education. So I wanted to start just by reminding you, out of respect to all of these speakers, if you have a mobile phone, if you have an iPad, please make sure that you turn it on. We would love to have you tweet with us. We would love to have you, comment on what we're saying. We always love to hear your thoughts on this. So if you could please make sure that you are always using your mobile phone, your devices. We want to make sure that we take care of that. And before we get started, I wanted to ask a favor of all of you, if that's okay. We have, within Blackboard, we have about 3,000 employees worldwide. And we have a little bit, Hello? Okay. We have a little bit of a contest going on right now. And the contest is called Selfies with Clients. And so if it's okay with you, if you see here on the screen, we have many employees that have been doing some very good selfies. So we have India, we have Vietnam, this is New Zealand, Finland, Singapore. And so the short story is that I am losing in this contest. And so if it's okay with you, Marina, would you join me? And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to try to get as many of you as possible. So when I say 3, if you could all wave really big. Just a second. Okay, we will try this one.
Abbia il volume.
It's okay.
Tira sull'1.
Okay. Okay, do we have audio? Hello.
Luisa?
Yeah, Cassie.
Luisa, pare che...
Ok.
un attimo l'audio.
Okay. Okay. All right, so if on the count of 3, if you don't want to be in hold your hands in front of your face. Okay, you ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover today, and I've got a few topics that I think are very interesting for us to discuss. The first is the history of open education. So this week we've talked about things like MOOCs. Today we're going to talk about Moodle, which is open source. I'm going to make the hypothesis that what we're talking about is not new. That for much of history of education, it has always been a very open concept. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The second thing I want to talk about is open content. And how open content is changing the way that we think about teaching and learning. Third, I want to talk about open courses. There have been many good sessions this week about MOOCs. I'm going to talk a little bit about MOOCs. And then we're going to talk about open software and what how Moodle fits into the open software part of open education. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure of open education. We talk a lot about, are MOOCs successful, are they not successful, how do we measure them, how do we structure them, and I want to talk a little bit about some things that we're doing with Moodle Rooms and Blackboard to support open education. And then I want to just take a few minutes to talk to you about some things that Moodle Rooms is doing at a global level to see if there are some corollaries with what you guys are doing in Italy. So with that, let's kind of start. Does anybody recognize this picture? Who knows what this is? Somebody? Just shout it out. This is the Academy of Plato, right? The Academy of Plato. And so I want, again, talking about the history of open education, I want to make a hypothesis that Plato might have been the first ever professor of a MOOC. Now, I don't know if you would call it a MOOC, right? A MOOC is a massive online open course. And his was not necessarily massive, and it was not online, it was on a hill, but the idea is the same, right? He had a course that was open to the public. We don't know everything that happened in Plato's Academy. What the history that we do know of it was the following, though. The curriculum was very open. It was more focused on discussion. It was focused on students communicating with each other. And communicating directly with the professor. And so we know that it had a very open curriculum. We also know something else that I think is very interesting from the time. Plato's Academy was actually open to women. We know that 2 women were actually graduated from Plato's Academy, which given the culture of the time is actually quite impressive. It was very open, right? And so this is very exciting. And so the idea behind this, and I'm going to talk through this a little bit more, is that education has always been open, right? People talk about Plato and the ancient Greeks being the fathers of modern education, and they already started the process of open education, and I think that's very important for us to think about. So if we kind of fast forward a little bit, some of these may be very real here, right? Some of the oldest universities in the world, right? Bologna, Oxford, Cambridge. Now, I had to put Harvard on here. I'm an American, and I realized that Harvard was not founded until about 1600, and so it's actually not very old by Italian standards, but by the United States standards, it's very old. It's very old. So we have many. So what happened after open education, Plato, all of these things? The church, other groups decided that education needed to become more formal. But these were still very open concepts, right? As students participating in education. And over hundreds of years, education evolved to become more open through the university system at a global level. So if we fast forward now even a little bit further, I live in the United Kingdom. How many of you guys know about the Open University of the UK? Okay, great. And I know there's open universities in every country, but I wanted to just look quickly at, this is a modern university. Open University was founded, I think, in the 60s, the 1960s. And if we look at the mission statement for a modern open university, how does that relate to those same things that Plato was doing on the side of a hill thousands of years ago? What does this say? The mission of the Open University is to be open to people, places, methods, and ideas. Very, very similar to what education has always been. Very, very open. And I think the next line is also important here. What do? We promote educational opportunity and social justice by providing a high-quality university education, and this is the important part, to all who wish to realize their ambitions and fulfill their potential. That is a very powerful mission statement, right? And it's a very open mission statement. And I believe that this idea of open education is a platform and a tool that we can use to impact economies, countries, civilizations, and culture. And I think this is a great example of this. And I hope that all of your universities and the universities that the rest of our clients, I hope they have similar mission statements about what they are trying to do through education. So it's not just about open education through the university system. I want to talk about information a little bit. Does anybody recognize this picture? No, okay. Well, there's actually, nobody knows exactly what this looked like. This is the library at Alexandria. This is a rendering of that because it's been obviously completely destroyed and nobody knows exactly what it looks like. But we do know what their mission was. The mission of the library at Alexandria was to collect all of the information of the world. That's a pretty amazing mission, right? Like, the idea of trying to do this in historic times is actually incredible, and I struggle to fathom how they thought they could do this. But there were literally hundreds and thousands of people copying down information, going out and searching for documents and books that they could bring to the library to collect all of the information of the world, all of the wisdom of the world. And so if we look at it today, this library is still in existence thousands of years later, and it's still a very, very important library. There's an internet hub that's based there. There's a lot of information technology pieces that actually route through the library of Alexandria. So this mission that they have of collecting all of the information of the world is still happening today. And so it's important, I think, again, the idea is just to show that some of the things that we're doing today are not actually new, right? We just have new methods, we have new tools by which to do that. This is a picture of, nobody's going to recognize this, I don't think, except for maybe a handful of these folks from the UK. This is the library hall at Trinity College in Dublin. Again, a historic library here in Europe. And they actually just issued some mandates to all of their professors, all of their faculty, all of their students, that all of the information that gets published through the courses, etc., of course it will be, Creative Commons license and all that, but it will be open to the public. much like what Harvard and MIT have done through their open courseware, where all of their courseware is actually shared publicly. So this idea that information can be shared is very, very important in education. So if we fast forward a little bit, we talked about the Open University and their mission. What if we think about a modern company today and how information is shared? Have you guys ever heard of Google? Has anybody heard of Google? It's actually an American company based in the United States. They do search engines. So if you're not familiar, you can actually type something into Google and search. It's very, very, I'm just kidding. Of course, everybody knows who Google is. How many of you guys have looked at Google's mission? Right, so they have this vision. You've probably heard their vision is don't be evil, right? So that's their kind of mission. But their mission is actually this. Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So if we go back, can you go back to the Alexandria? One more. Thousands of years ago, the mission of the library at Alexandria was to collect all of the world's information. And today, we have Google, whose mission is to collect all the world's information and make it useful. We're not doing anything that's new. We're just doing it with new tools. We're doing it in new forms. Google has technology that actually allows it to accomplish the mission that libraries have been trying to do for thousands and thousands of years. It's a very, very important, I think, that we understand the history and the context of what we're trying to do with open education. So what do we see in open education today at a global level? So first we see that education, at least primary and secondary education, is largely free and open and universal, right? In developed countries, it is possible for children, for students to receive a primary and secondary education generally free and universally. And that's a wonderful thing. That hasn't always been true. Even just 100 or 150 years ago, there were many parts of the world where primary and secondary education were not publicly available and were not open. And this is a wonderful thing, and we're happy to support it. Secondly, we have open academic journals and research. You know, today, many professors, many researchers, of course, they want to publish articles in journals and in trade reviews, but you also see many professors and researchers with blogs that are sharing that are sharing information on a daily basis through their blog and through Twitter and various ways to make data open and accessible for others to research. And of course, you can't really talk about open education without talking about the internet. The internet has fundamentally changed the way we think about open education. And I'll give an example. A very close friend of mine is a professor of law at Brooklyn, at the College of Law in Brooklyn in New York City. And she's been a professor of law for about 20 years now. And she says it used to be that she would show up to class and she would have her lecture notes ready and she would share and she would talk and the students would scribble furiously their notes and they would take all of this down. She says that today when she goes to class, she's terrified. And I said, well, why are you terrified? And she said, because the students sitting at their computer with their laptop, with their tablet, they have more access to information than I have standing in front of the room. And at least once a week in one of my presentations, a student will raise their hand and they'll say, no, Rebecca, that's wrong. There was actually a case yesterday where the judge ruled that that is no longer the valid law, right? The internet has fundamentally changed education. No longer does the professor stand in front of the room and try to take the knowledge that is in the professor's head and place it in the head of the student. Information is free. If you have a mobile phone, if you have internet access, information is free. So our job as educators is not to take information and place it in students' heads. It's how do we help students process information? How do we help them synthesize information? How do we help them take the information that they already have access to and make it useful, make it powerful, and help them make better decisions based on that information. So I'd like to talk today about 3 different kinds of open, kind of components of open education. The first is open content. The second is open courses, and we've talked quite a bit about MOOCs this week. I won't add a lot to what other people have already said. And then I want to talk about open software and specifically Moodle. So let's just hit these real quickly. I think that the change of openness with content is very, very powerful. In the past, content has been a very difficult part of education, right? I always make the comment that Moodle has never taught anybody anything, right? Teachers teach students, and they teach students using content. Moodle is just a connection methodology. It's a way for an instructor to connect to a student or for a student to connect to another student. But in the past, content has actually been very difficult. Content was private and protected. You couldn't just share content openly because of copyright and license and all of these things. It was very expensive, right? Textbooks, when students had to go buy textbooks or use expensive materials, it became very expensive. And you don't often know the quality of content before you use it. It's very hard to find good content. But this has changed quite fundamentally. You know, today we have things like Creative Commons. How many of you guys license your content that you build using Creative Commons? Anybody? Okay, a handful of people. So we have a methodology for sharing content that makes it open, but also makes it, you maintain your ownership. With the internet, we have universal access to content. Everybody can download and participate, and you have communities that are building around content. You have groups of people around the world that are forming together to build better digital content, and it's a very, very powerful movement. The second thing, of course, MOOCs. We've talked about them this week. Open courses. What do they mean? How does it, you know, and I know there's wonderful initiatives going on here in Italy with some MOOCs that are starting in December. Very excited to see how these things go. But why are MOOCs so important? Well, I would argue that there's the traditional method of a course is breaking down. It doesn't work anymore. In the past, courses were exclusive. If you couldn't come to a university and sit in a classroom, you couldn't participate in the course. And not only that, you had to be admitted to the course. You had to apply, you had to become, and there might only be 20 seats available for any particular course. That's exclusive. It was closed. They were inaccessible. There have been billions of people around the world that had no access at all to education. Maybe they live too far from the university. Maybe they live in a country where the universities are a place where education is not accessible. So the past was very, very closed. But now we have open courses. We have MOOCs or whatever we call them. You know, they're massive. They're open. They're online. You can teach thousands of students. You can make your courses, you can make your content available to thousands and thousands of students. That's fundamentally different than the closed nature of courses in the past. So the last one that I'll talk about, and then I want to talk a little bit about what Blackboard is doing and Moodle Rooms is doing at a global level, is open source software. And you know, today is the Moodle Moot part of the conference, and we as Moodle Rooms are very invested in the Moodle project. But software has changed too. You know, software has always been proprietary and expensive and difficult to manage. But those things are starting to change as well, right? Software like Moodle is open and free. I put free in quotation marks because I don't actually believe there's any such thing as free software, right? We joke internally at Blackboard that Moodle is free like a puppy. You know, somebody calls you and says, here, you can have this puppy and it doesn't cost you anything. But that doesn't mean that it's free, right? You still have to take care of the puppy. You still have to buy the puppy food. So it's free. We also have things like software as a service and cloud, which, you know, these things about the expensive nature of software and difficulty of managing software, those things are no longer a problem. You have providers like Moodle Rooms and others that actually manage the software for you inexpensively so that you can focus on things like teaching and learning. So I just wanted to think about these projects. You know, we talk a lot about open education. And, there were slides that were presented over the last several days that talked about, how many MOOCs were being presented. And I mentioned, some of the open content initiatives. Many open projects fail. If you look at open source software, and I don't know how many techies there are in the room, if you look in GitHub, where most open source software lives, there are thousands and thousands of open source projects that have one person using them or two people using them. So what's the difference between these projects that are unsuccessful and the ones that are successful? I would argue that the ones that are successful have a structure to them. It's not one person, it's groups of people, like today, where we've got many people here to talk about Moodle. These types of things are what make open projects successful. And I want to share just 3 things that Blackboard and Moodle Rooms are doing to support these initiatives. So the first is a product that we have called Explore. Explore is a digital content repository based in the cloud and also based on Creative Commons. So the idea is that whether you're using Moodle, whether you're using Blackboard, whether you're using another platform, using open standards, you can share your content with other universities and with other schools and with other parts of the world. So in this repository today, we have over 100,000 digital learning objects that are Creative Commons open licensed and are available to anyone who connects their Moodle or who connects Blackboard to the Explore platform. And it's also open to share your content. So if you have content that you want to share with the world, this is just a structure or a methodology by which you could do it. So that's Explore, one very simple thing. The second thing is MOOCs. So we have literally hundreds and hundreds of clients that are using our platforms to do MOOCs. This is just an example. The University of Helsinki is launching a MOOC. Now, I will make a little bit of a Finnish joke here, if that's okay. When they first called and said they wanted to run a MOOC in Finnish, my question was, how massive can it be? Because so few people actually speak Finnish. The biggest it could possibly be is, anyway, so they've got a MOOC though, it's running, it's very successful. We're proud to support the University of Helsinki in their approach to this. The last one that I'll mention on our support is just Moodle Rooms. Again, like I said before, Blackboard and Moodle Rooms, we give literally millions of dollars every year to support the ongoing development of Moodle. We are the largest contributor in code, we're the largest contributor in dollars. It's a big secret, I guess. Many people don't realize that Blackboard is such a big supporter of Moodle, but it's an important part of our strategy. So very quickly, that's kind of my overview of open education. If you'll indulge me for just 2 minutes, I do want to share a little bit about some other things that Blackboard is doing that you might be interested in. So I want to think ahead a little bit about what's coming next. So here are a few things that we are thinking about. So I run our Moodle business at a global level, and we are seeing education and open education very differently than many people. I believe, and in my travels around the world, what I know to be true is that you guys as hello? Okay. Every once in a while, it just pauses for 2 seconds. You guys as universities here in Italy are no longer just competing for students with other universities in Italy. You're competing at a global level for education. A student here in Genoa, a student in Rome, a student in any city in Italy has the opportunity not only to live in another country and be educated, but they have an opportunity to pursue an online education in Singapore, in Australia, in the United States. Their education is now global. And if you as a university, I hope that you are not thinking that your biggest competitor is the university in the next city over, because that's not the case. The university around the world, the universities that are purely online, that's the competition. And so we need to be prepared for that. So I think Blackboard's mission and Moodle Room's mission should actually be very similar to yours. And that's this: you should be thinking global, but you also should be local. There's a community, this community that we've seen over the last 3 days, the wonderful event last night, this community of local people is very important, but you can't just think about what's happening here in Italy. You have to understand what's happening around you if you're going to be successful in the long run. So a couple of things I'll just mention. We in Moodle Rooms, we host about 4.5 million users on Moodle. That's about 1,400 clients, and we have data centers around the world that support our Moodle cloud. And then we have offices, we have partners, we have literally offices in places around the world. Why do we have this? It's not just so that we can sell more software and grow. I mean, obviously we're a business, we want to grow. It's also so that we can support people locally and that we can actually deliver services in the region and in the language, and so that we can connect universities with each other. Next week, I have to be in South Africa to visit some of our clients in South Africa. And it's very interesting. They've actually asked me to bring a client from the United States that they want to understand what this client is doing with online education. And so there's this network around the world that is building up where we can share best practices and we can share what we're doing with clients around the world. We have Alex here with us today from Middlesex University, one of our clients in the UK, who's going to share some of their experiences with what they're doing with Moodle. So it's very important. And then I'll just show, if you click to the one more. This is actually, what our client base looks like, and this needs to change. I just realized this morning that I haven't updated this slide in a couple of weeks. We just acquired a company in Bogota, Colombia, which is the largest Moodle company in Latin America. And we now have 300 more clients in the Colombia, Peru area, so my map is out of date. But the hope is that we can build this community of practice and participating in events like this, where we can share some of the things that we're seeing about open education around the world. We sponsored an event earlier this year as an example of that. The University of Vienna and Moodle Rooms sponsored the first ever European Dev Camp, we called it. It was a group of about 60 developers that came together to write really interesting code around Moodle. And for those of you that are technical, one of the things that Blackboard is very focused on is accessibility. And one of the groups at this Moodle Dev Camp actually built some new accessible plugins for the HTML editor for Atto that allow you to not use inaccessible tables and instead use blocks to deliver code. So it's very, if you're interested, you should go check it out. There's really interesting code that came out of this community initiative. So a couple of other things that we're doing as well, if we can jump ahead. You guys, Marina mentioned that the Blackboard Collaborate platform, this is a web conferencing platform where you can share in high definition video, you can share your screen, you can share audio. We've plugged this in and connected it to Moodle, so we're trying to make all of our tools as plug and play as possible with the various open platforms that are out there, and we were happy to provide some tools for you guys to do that. And then one other area that I think is, and then another area that we're trying to be very open is trying to connect other tools with Moodle. So we have a project with Remote Learner, which is another Moodle provider in the world. We're working with Microsoft, so there's now deep integration. How many of you guys use Office 365 on your campus? Anybody? Okay, there's a handful of you. The new and deep integration between Office 365 and Moodle is something that we're working very closely on. The next version of that will come out a little bit later this year, but it's an exciting way to kind of open up the software to other things. Okay, and then the last thing, I won't skip this one. Okay, the last thing I'll mention is something that we will be releasing here in the next few weeks. Earlier this summer, we announced a project. We acquired a technology that is specifically around learning analytics. And not just learning analytics like reporting. We have a team now as part of this project of 5 data scientists that are using Moodle data to predict how students can perform so that instructors can actually help students that are struggling in the course very, very early on and do interventions with those students. So you'll see this picture up above here. One of the factors that these data scientists have determined is that students that struggle or students that are at risk often are not connected to other students. They are not socially connected. And so this tool actually looks at your Moodle data and it shows the social connectedness of those students with each other. And so you'll see in this particular graph here, there's one student, Brent, who is not very connected. But it doesn't just show the connections. The thickness of the line actually shows how socially connected they are to that particular student based on discussion forum participation, emails they've sent, communications with the instructor, participation in wikis, other tools. So what this allows instructors to do is to say, how connected are my students? And then this actually factors in to this below. Let me change sides here. In this particular case, the analytics can actually predict what students' grades will be based on some algorithms that process the data and the language and the discussion forum post and the attendance and the participation. It's a very, very interesting concept. It's still, I know learning analytics is still at its very beginning, but we believe with this tool connected to Moodle, it will really help instructors really understand what's happening in their course, whether that course is blended, partially online, partially face-to-face, or pure online. And so this is something you'll see us start talking about over the next few weeks, but I wanted to give you a preview of what we're thinking about. So let's see, I think that should be it. So I'm very excited that Alex is here. He's going to share in just a little bit about what they're doing at Middlesex. This is one of our clients in the UK. And I want to show one other thing real quick as well, if you fast forward. We don't just want to think about technology. So many people think about Blackboard as a software company like Microsoft or Oracle, and many people think about Moodle as a tool, as a technology that you install and you put on servers. But we actually are really starting to think much more about the actual pedagogy and adoption of the software than about the technology. So this is an example. We have a group of people. Andy here at the end is one of these people that we send out to work with our clients that we call just adoption services, which is actually a horrible name. But we do workshops with faculty members to show them how to better use the software to drive digital adoption with their students. How do you design content so that analytics are effective? How do you design content so that students can use it on their mobile devices? How do you design courses and curriculum and programs so that students will actually be engaged and will continue and be a part of the program? And so we've got a series of tools. I think the next one, this is actually at the end of the first day of a workshop with a school in Ireland. This is what the table looked like. It was covered in drawings and note cards of here are some tools. Actually, this one wasn't. This was in the Vietnam one. You can see some of the letters there. So this was one of our examples of a workshop that we ran with a university that was, again, it was about Moodle, but the reality is we didn't talk about the technology at all. It was really about how do you use it to drive adoption in your institution. So thank you very much for your time. Again, I'm here all day. We've been here all week. It's been a pleasure to be here. I hope that you agree with me that education should continue to be open and that we should continue to drive more and more students to using open tools and open platforms. Happy to answer any questions if there are time, but if not, we also have several other presentations to get to. So Marina, I'll give this back to you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much because I think you gave a very exhaustive picture of the importance of being open in education. And I suggest to listen all the talk before having question, because in this way we could have different point of view and people could make a question that can go in a wider way. So it's okay for you? Very good. Okay. So please, it's better if you use this microphone because it's safer. And the second talk is made by Mihir, Jana, that live in India. Is a founder and managing director of the Infoline Private Limited. That is an organization that works especially on Moodle and on e-learning in his country, India. He has a very long experience because he worked for 10 days in the Infosys Technologies Limited, that is an important technology company in Bangalore. And his organization is a pioneer in India because he was able to convince an important hospital to use Moodle for learning for all the staff, medicine, nurse, paramedics, the general staff. So it was a very big job. And is working in different aspects of Moodle and e-learning, and is consulting of various different private institutions, and he also works with us in Italian because he is the man that is working to the Moodle platform for Eduopen, that is the network, Italian network, that is just started. We start at the end of last year, and is connecting, is growing step by step, but is starting to connect university, Italian university for MOOC. So I give you the floor.
Okay,
You can
Thanks.
go on.
Okay. Good morning, all. So, first of all, I feel really happy and delighted to be here among with you to share my experiences and give a perspective from give a perspective on the how Moodle is getting used in various sectors in India. In my talk today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the technical things, how we have developed Moodle to have a complete MOOC platform, which is going to be open in December 2015 in Italy. Okay, so this is a very simple agenda for my talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about the approach that we have taken, and then how we have developed developed various themes and course attributes, and of course different blocks and plugins. And then the most important one is the course format. Okay, so since the beginning we were having the thought that we are not going to change any Moodle core code, so that our platform can be scalable and can be upgraded along with the Moodle community. So Moodle 3.0 is going to come very soon, so our platform will be automatically upgraded to the latest Moodle version. So that was the first thing that we have decided. Then we did a thorough study since the Moodle 2.0 till Moodle 2.8, the various documents, the technological artifacts, the plugins. Moodle community is a very, very strong community. So a lot of things, lot of features were available. So we did a thorough study on it. Then we find out what is available and what was needed for the Italian community for Eduopen project here. So our fundamental goal was that our solution should be scalable, and when the number of courses and users, universities grow up heavily down the line in future, our solution should be able to take into account that. So we created a simple framework of development. So that framework was first established into the Moodle. It was integrated, and then we have used every object of that framework for all the development of this platform. So that way we are intact with the Moodle community. Whenever any patches, anything is coming up, we can go along with that. Okay, so this is the simple approach for the theme. So we wanted to have a multi-device platform. So we have chosen UI framework on the Bootstrap. We have, in fact, for the Moodle pages, we have created a layout for every different page. Typically in themes, you can control that. So for course format, for login, for front pages, for FAQs, for certificates, for everything, we have created different layouts. We have used Gregori. Just to let you know, Gregori is the library of JavaScript which we use extensively in the Moodle development. And of course, it is multi-device, so it is responsive. And then we wanted to give our UI and look and feel a very, very simple but effective look, which will attract the students and of course will be easy to use for the tutors and teachers to create their course material and prepare the courses. These are some of the terminologies in our platform. So first one is pathway. Usually it is specialization or tracks in various other MOOC platform. So any course can be a part of a single pathway, or it can be part of multiple pathways, or it can be a standalone course as well. The example of one pathway could be, let's say, specialization in computer science. Then of course the universities or the institutes, then FAQ. So in the entire platform, we can have short question and answer for anything and everything. It could be about a particular course, it could be about a particular activity, it could be for a particular institute, or even for the professor or the tutor who are delivering the courses. Then we have milestone and capstone course. In our platform, we have created a group of courses which can be delivered together. So among those courses, we quantify one particular course as a milestone course. It's like, you have achieved something in the middle, now you are going to go to the next level. Then at the end, on completion, students can always get the certificate. We have 3 levels of certificate just for the attendance of completion, or even the next level is the verified by an authority or institute. And at the end, if the student wishes to appear for a formal exam, then after completion of the exam, they can take out the formal certificate. So these are various attributes for a particular course that can be put up in our platform. Because in our platform, the course is the center of the world. So as I said, it can be part of a pathway, either a single or many pathways, or even a standalone course. It can be offered by a single institute. Then certificate, we have spoken about attendance of completion, verified, or the exam certificate. The levels, it can be beginner level or an advanced level of courses. And of course, you can specify the cost and the languages, like whether it is getting offered in English or Italiano or any other languages. We need all these attributes at a later point of time so that anybody who comes to the platform, they can easily filter these out and find their specific courses what they're interested in. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about, little technical about, is the pathway or the specialization. As you can see in the image, we are actually collecting all the details about a particular pathways, like its overview, its banners, what is the background requirement for students to have so that they can take this particular pathway. Then of course, few introductory videos so that you can put it up and your students can watch, and then they can decide whether this pathway is really good for them or not. Then of course, this sequence of courses if you are offering, let's say 10, 12 courses for this particular pathway, you can decide which course will be your milestone course and which course is going to be the last course or the capstone course. Here you can specify, as I was telling you, that for number of courses, you can specify which course needs to be taken up after what. So the sequence is important here. So you can specify the milestone and then their complete track of the courses. At a later point of time, you can also change that sequence. Yeah, once again, institute, we have created it as a block, and we are collecting all the information like name, their details about the institute, brief history about the institute, and then their addresses, how the institute can be contacted, who are the course coordinator for the institute. And these details are very important for the student so that they feel if they want to contact anybody from the institute, they can easily vouch for it. FAQs, so we wanted to have our platform much more interactive, and if any questions are there for the student, they should have some basic information available in the site. So it can be for the entire site or the application, for any institute, for any courses, for payments, for specific activities, certificates, for everything. The FAQs, like the short question and answers, can be created and put it up. Then the course format, we wanted to give a different view on the course format because most of the material that is going to be used in this platform are the videos, and which needed a very big look so that video can be played in multiple devices. So we have given a light view approach or the light box approach. On click of the material, it will open up in your full screen automatically. So either it is in your smaller devices like phones or tablets, or even in your laptop, it will open up in the full screen. Yeah. So these are the 3 levels of certificate that I have touched upon. One is the attendance of completion, which is like if I have attempted the courses or completed the courses, I just wanted to have my attendance of completion certificate. It can be taken up. The next level is, of course, the verified certificate, which is would be verified by any institute, and students can opt for it. And then if student wants to appear for any formal exam, once they clear the exam, they can also go for the exam certificate. The most important feature of the exam certification or the examination form is that every institute, every teacher can create their own form. As in, whatever information is needed from the student, they can create the form dynamically, and the student will put up all the details, and then once it's approved, they can appear for the exam, and at the end, they can collect their exam certificate. So these are the various things by which a student can filter the courses and find out whatever courses they're interested for. So we have browse by institution, then of course specialization. We have recognition as well, like whether it's a master degree or advanced degree. Then the type of the course, whether it is a complete online or the blended. And then of course the level, whether it is for the beginner or the advanced or even the master level courses. The languages, whether it is in English, Spanish, or any other language, and then of course based on the certificate. As I was telling you, this is designed for the all devices, so you can always act on this platform on your phone or tablet or even on a large screen laptops. So these are the few future plan, and we are brainstorming for different ideas in terms of we want to address the localization, because in Italy we have to think about different languages. Then of course the analytics and tracking, because in future down the line when there will be many users, many courses, we have to track their progress and recommend them for the next course of action. And of course, the problem worldwide on the completion rate of MOOC courses. So that's also on our path to do the brainstorm and coming up with the innovative ideas so that the completion rate goes up for our platform. These are some of the snapshots from our platform. So that's what we want to achieve. We want to give more choice and flexibility to everybody, not only to institute, to users or the course. It should be for the entire ecosystem. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all the information you gave us about the platform and what we can do with it. So let's pass to the new talk that have a very attractive title. And I give some information about Javier Gregori, that is passionate about education, technologies, and the interaction between each. Javier is a doctor, sorry, a doctor in education by University of Extremadura, Spain. So he is also able to understand Italian when we will pose a question. He is also Global Master of Business Administration by IE Business School in Spain, and he has a master degree in ICT applied to education and corporate training, and he worked for Blackboard, but before joining Blackboard, Javier worked in a number of different positions, each one related to teaching and learning innovation through technology. And he also, in Spain, worked for the Fundación Laboral de Construcción, okay? It's a company devoted to provide professional training to more than 100,000 workers per year. So it's a very big job. He participates also to a lot of European and national projects in fields that are all related each other, because we range from learning material, augmented reality, machinery simulation. But I would like also thank him because he helped us to practice with the platform, and he was very kind answering to our email when at the beginning we had some problem to move the first step in the Moodle rooms. So it's up to you.
It has been our pleasure to support the community for this Moodle MOOC. So, such a introduction. That's impressive. So I'm going to be brief. So I come to Italy a lot. I work with Paolo. I've been visiting some of you from time to time. So I don't want to take the time here. I prefer to leave the most possible time to Andy and Alex. But what I want to reflect today is about how we can benefit from Moodle, but without the wrong part, without all the pain that is associated with managing Moodle. So Moodle is a great platform, and it has become a de facto standard, and the great thing is that it's something that can be leveraged by the community, worldwide educational community, in order to have a common framework. So if you had to develop your own learning platform starting today, it will be a mess. So if any of you have been ever involved in developing any kind of software, you know that these kind of things happen. So from how you want it, how you explain, how the requirements go in, how it is coded, how it's maintained, how different things go in the project, and so on. In fact, one of my most respected teachers used to tell me that a camel is a horse designed by a committee. What I want to say with this is, if we took today all the biggest experts in the world in e-learning and put them in a room and not let them out until they come with a perfect platform, it will take like very long years to get to a point of where the Moodle development it is today. But at the same time, Moodle is not an unicorn. It's not a magic creature that will help you train your students with no pain and benefiting for all the latest technologies and everything. And in fact, managing any critical system and managing Moodle in particular can be difficult. So it's not only the platform, it's the servers, applications. So even if you have very skilled people managing it, and I know that in Italy, in every university, you have the best of the best managing Moodle, you have to consider that you are not scaled to do that. And that is a problem. Even more when your students are expecting to be 24/7 supported, they will go into the platform exactly when you cannot support them. They will go at nights, they will go while you are on holidays, so it's problematic. If you also consider your mission as an educational institution, this is even more clearer. So as a university, as a public university, your mission should be to innovate in teaching and learning, to provide education, and also to provide a better user experience and more flexible ways of competence-based education and all the things that are very important today. But your mission is probably not to develop software, to manage complex infrastructures, to plan and perform all those software upgrades, or to maintain the databases for your Moodle application. So those are painful things that you have to do in order to support your true mission. So if we do a little bit of an analogy between Moodle and supporting Moodle and pizza, because after all we are in Italy, so we are not going to talk about paella. So I would like to share this very cool graphic that I found in LinkedIn some time ago. So yes, you can do it yourself. You can host your Moodle, and you will need to manage everything. So you even need to have the oven, and consider that you are not going to have a forno di pietra at your house. So it's not going to be probably the best pizza ever. But fortunately, we have different ways of supporting Moodle, and what we are doing, for example, with Moodle Rooms is to provide you a software as a service. So essentially, you don't need to worry about anything related with the technical management of the platform. We do that for you, and you just enjoy providing a great experience to your students. It's all about having a better Moodle experience, and we can do that because we really have the expertise. We really have 4 million users in our platforms, and we own some of the biggest Moodle partners, and so we give back to the community. Moodle Rooms, which is our main open source solutions, is just a core Moodle. So it's not a fork, it's not something that we have modified, it's what you have in core Moodle, provided in a very high-performing SaaS. So actually you don't manage the technology, and with some features that we have created that make the lives of all your stakeholders easier. And from time to time, what we do is that as we are developing new functionality, we open source previous features. So we give back to Moodle, we give code, we provide features, and it's really a symbiotic and beneficial relationship. Another important thing is to stay up to date. So being in the latest version of Moodle can be tough. You need to have downtime. You always have your students. Even when it's summer, you may have some summer courses. So it's a mess. So through our platform, we can always keep you in one of the latest versions. We are doing all the testing for you, so actually you don't need to worry about will this work, will this not work. When you get to the latest version, it's going to be working. So if Moodle now is 2.9, we are in 2.8, so we are leaving 6 months to do all this testing, and that the benefit is that you don't have to do it. We also are working in a cloud, so we do continuous deliveries, no downtime. When we change versions, you will not notice. You will notice because you are in the new version, but not because there's downtime or you cannot access the platform. Another important thing, support. If you want support with core Moodle, you need to hire third party, you need to have a lot of people inside your company or your institution. We provide 24/7 support out of the box. And this is very important because if you have a problem, you have always someone to help with that. Migration is very transparent process. So we take your data, we put it in Moodle Room, it works, that's it. And we also help with making the life of the teachers easier. So we have an interface that we have created, Snap theme, which is fully responsive. It's very beautiful. You can customize it, and it's open source, so you can use it today. We have a lot of efficiencies when it comes to manage the courses. We have systems such as PLD, a personal learning designer, that will help you create rules to automate a lot of behaviors in the platform. So if you have a look at this example, you'll see how complex will be to do that manually, and we can do that through a rule system, so it's going to be very easy. We have better reporting in Moodle Rooms, so you can have almost real-time information, and not only so, as Phill showed before, we are working in having predicting analytics into the platform. So from the connectedness in forums, knowing which are the students that are participating or not, and being able to encourage those to work on the course. Not only the quantity of the postings, also the quality and measuring the critical thinking, being able to predict grading, or also being able to do an analysis of the items in your quizzes so you get a better question banks. Also important, we help you integrate your platform with your student information system. That's a very important part, so you get your courses, you get your students, you get your enrollment, all created automatically from what you have in your student information system. I'm not going through how that works, but just know that we can help you with the end of the year rollover, creating new users, archiving courses, creating courses from template in quite an easy and convenient way. And that's also just one little thing, which is come to the dark side. We have focaccia.
Okay, thanks a lot for your very interesting presentation. And now, let me introduce Alex Chapman, the new relator, the new speaker. He is head of technology enhanced learning at Middlesex University of London. And before that time, he worked in Edinburgh, and he worked at the Learning Technology section at Edinburgh University, and at the Centre of Academic Practice, Queen Margaret, still in Edinburgh. He has a very long experience, 12 years, of supporting and leading the use of educational technology with higher education, and now is responsible for the university educational technology strategy in order to offer students all what they need in order to benefit of all this connection between technology and education. So now I give you the floor.
Well, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. As I say, I don't now need to introduce myself because that's been done very nicely for me. But I'm going to talk to you today really about institutional change and how that can be used for a driver for sort of transforming learning and teaching within the institution. And I'm going to talk about that from the context of a project that we've recently gone through to move to Moodle as our institutional VLE. So using a big technology project that is institutional-wide to really give academics the opportunity to examine what they want to do with technology and how that they can best use technology to support their curriculum and really to enhance the student experience. So it's kind of our story at Middlesex of how we went through that process. And hopefully there'll be things that maybe chime with you here in Italy as well for some of the challenges that you face. And you'll find some of this useful that you can take back to your own institutions. So a bit of background about Middlesex as an institution, just to give you some context. We have around 40,000 students, so we're quite a large institution within the UK. We have our main campus is in London, so that's where the majority of our students study. But we're quite an international campus as well, so we're quite an international institution. And we also have campuses in Dubai, Mauritius, and Malta. I can't tell you why those particular places were chosen. I suspect it's because they're nice places to go on holiday for our executive and these kinds of things, but you know, we then have to support those different campuses with the use of technology, and it certainly plays a very big part in how we do support the academic community and the students who study on those campuses. We have 6 schools or faculties, and that kind of ranges from science and technology through to media and performing arts and health and education, so quite a variety of subject areas that again, we need to support. And we have a very diverse student body. Obviously, London's a very international city, and that gives us quite a diverse sort of community of students, and coupling that with the international flavor of the institution, it provides some sort of unique challenges for us. And there's some very big parts that technology can play in supporting those students. So the area that I work in is the Centre for Academic Practice Enhancement. And I've had some conversations with a few people here over the last few days. And I think this is quite common also in Italy now, where maybe previously these teams used to live within the faculties, the teams that supported the use of educational technology or learning and teaching, but now they're maybe coming together more as a central service within the institutions to make sure that there's that support across the entire institution and maybe not focused within individual schools and areas. So we went through this process about 5 years ago, and the Centre for Academic Practice Enhancement was formed then. But we realized that obviously everybody likes to think they're unique. There's obviously differences between the different faculties and the subject areas. So we work to a hub and spoke model where we have a mixture of academic developers and educational technologists who work within the center. So they're very much involved in driving institutional change and the support of educational technology and learning and teaching across the institution, and making sure that institutional aims are met and projects are delivered. But equally, they work very closely with individual module leaders or program teams within the schools so that they have a real understanding of the academic aspects and the curriculum and the specificities of each sort of subject area that exists within the institution. We also have a link for each academic developer. So we have one academic developer that is aligned to each of our schools. And again, that's very important in that process. And that's something that came out of this move to Moodle as a platform. And the teams that we set up to support that, we kind of put this structure in place, and that's kind of continued on since then. So as I said, I'm going to talk about this in the context of our move to a hosted Moodle environment. And just to give you a bit of background about where we came from, we used to have WebCT Vista as our institutional VLE, and we had that for about 12 years. And to be honest, in that time it changed sort of very little. We had adoption across the university, but it was maybe some champions in certain areas, or most people were using it just to simply put up their lecture slides, and it became a bit of a dumping ground. So we realized after this sort of 12 years of having this, that we had to kind of make a step change in how we were using technology and the kinds of tools and opportunities that we were offering to our students to support their learning and teaching. It also came at the time when we were needing to upgrade anyway, so it kind of fitted really nicely within that process. So we undertook an 18-month scoping exercise, and this was a sort of really important aspect of what we did. We looked internally at the kinds of things that our academics were wanting to do with technology. We just didn't want them to tell us what they didn't like about the old platform. We actually wanted them to sort of a bit of blue skies thinking and think about what's possible and the kinds of activities and engagements and communities that they'd like to build with their student body. And we also spoke with the students as well to get an idea of their expectations and the kinds of tools and technologies that they were using maybe in their personal lives, and trying to draw this all together in a platform that would really sort of fully support our students. So at that point, we kind of knew that Moodle was the platform for us. The flexibility and adaptability that it provided, it came out sort of head and shoulders above other platforms that we'd looked at the time. So we went directly to a tender process for a hosted solution. Now, we'd previously hosted in-house, but we didn't have the expertise for supporting Moodle. I've seen Moodle out the box when we first started to look at it, and it took us a long time to get our heads around. So we knew that with the timeframes that we were working towards, you can see there we were hoping to go live in June 2013 with our academic body, and we'd only started the finishing the tender process in March. So in a very short space of time, we had a huge amount to deliver. A lot of staff development, a lot of support that was going to be provided, as well as the whole other side of actually setting up the system and making sure it integrated with the different platforms we have at Middlesex. So Moodle Rooms were chosen as our partner in that process, and it was important for us that we had a partner that we knew would be able to deliver the things that we were looking for, but also that maybe understood our kind of ethos and what it was we were trying to achieve with this project, this idea of transforming learning and teaching rather than just moving from one platform to another. So we kind of had some key aims that we kept in mind, and I don't know if it's the same in Italy, but in the UK, the student experience and student engagement are really key performance indicators for us. We have a lot of competition from other institutions with the introduction of fees for students, and also the lifting on the cap for the numbers of students that we can take in as an institution. That really puts the student experience and the student at the fore of everything that we kind of do. And this was kind of just some sort of aims that we wanted to keep in mind when we were going out and talking to our program teams and our academics, to make sure that it was always the student that was considered in that process. And the second one there is really about the idea, again, of transforming what academics were doing with their learning and teaching. So taking this opportunity to look at their whole curriculum and making sure that the technology was embedded within that and not something that over years they just kind of added on to try and solve this particular issue or that particular issue, but it wasn't really a joined up sort of process. And again, really, we also had some principles that we wanted to abide by as a central service. So often it's very easy to go out there and sort of force your views on others, but we wanted this to be about a dialogue and a discussion with our academic community and really a partnership with them. So I think the key one for us really, and I'll just pick a couple out here, is that the pedagogy had to drive the choice of technologies. It couldn't be, you know, the dog wagging the tail or the tail wagging the dog. It had to be the pedagogy came first, and then we would work to find the best tools that would meet that requirement or the particular tasks and activities that the academics were trying to achieve. And the other thing I think there is about having a secure and supported space for academics. So we wanted to make sure that there was a space where they could go, feel supported by the institution to really develop their digital literacies. So we had a really wide variety of sort of skill levels across the institution. We'd always had champions, but we wanted to make sure that the general level of skill and digital literacies of our staff was lifted as part of this process. So what did that really mean for us as a Center for Academic Practice Enhancement and the role that we played in this? Well, it was really about trying to get academics to understand this kind of digital storm that exists out there, these huge variety of tools that are possible for academics to use and integrate within their curriculum. And our role was really to lead them through that path and make sure that they were choosing the right tools for the right tasks to support their students and their curriculum. So we tried to sort of formalize that in a diagram, and I have to admit I stole this from a Creative Commons website, but it was something that I think was really useful for us in trying to get this idea across to academics of what was possible and to what level we would be able to support them in that process. So there was always this idea that Moodle would be that core platform where students would come and where academics would come, but this could lead out to other possibilities. So we have an arranged level of tools there that we plug into Moodle. They're fully supported, they're single sign-on. We're able to provide all the staff development, and these are things that we use institutionally. So again, that idea of using Moodle to extend the capability with plugins was something that was really important to us. But I think the interesting thing here is the recommended and recognized sort of levels. We'd worked with academics previously who had always came with the conception that they had to use the core environment for all their learning and teaching needs. And what we wanted to say to them was, well, actually, no, we want you to go out and explore. We want you to use other tools and technologies, look at some of the social media tools that exist out there, and we want to support you in that process. So it was really kind of formalizing that and encouraging them to come to us so we could share that best practice. So the project itself ran over 2 academic years, and the important thing here is that we wanted to give academics the opportunity and the space to sort of look at what they were doing. So we aligned it to our quality assurance processes. So in year 1 of the project, we made sure that all programs that were going up for validation and review during that year were part of that move in phase 1. And also, we luckily had quite a large number of programs that were being validated or reviewed at that time as well. So our entire business school was going through this process of revalidating and reviewing their modules and their programs. So it gave us a great opportunity to get in there from the start and work with these program teams to actually explore what they would. I'm being told to slow down because I do speak very, very quickly. To explore what they were doing with their curriculum and how the technology could support that. So that turned out to be about 50% of our provision in year 1. I think we ended up with about 900 courses within Moodle at that point and training about 350 members of staff. And in phase 2, we then had to look at all the other programs that we needed to move across. But again, we also looked at exploring opportunities within continued professional development courses and short courses, so maybe courses that traditionally sat outside the academic arena and incorporated them into that phase of our delivery. So we realized that we had to have a structure in place that was going to support that. And really what this is about is the fact that we had to take a top-down, bottom-up approach. I realize my slide's gone a bit wrong there, but we needed buy-in from the university executive. We needed to make sure that we had a project board in place that had representation from each of the faculties, so the heads of faculty sat on that board. We had our students' union, and that also fed up then to the university executive. So really important to get that top-level buy-in. But the important work really happens down at the ground level there with the actual module leaders and the program teams, and that's where the Center for Academic Practice Enhancement came in to deliver that change. But again, there's this idea that in the middle there can be a bit of a gap between those two areas. So we also had a sort of institutional-wide school body of academic representation that we met with on a monthly basis that then fed those activities up and down that chain. So it's really about making sure you have institutional buy-in, but all the hard graft and all the hard work really takes place within the program and course leader areas. So we developed a sort of structure where we wanted to make sure that academics were looking at all the services and all the central services that could support learning and teaching across the university. And we created teams that were led by the Center for Academic Practice, so that academic developer. They were leading that team, and they were working with the module leaders and the program teams, but making sure that we also introduced people like our subject librarians to incorporate online reading lists that we'd brought in and ebooks, looking to make sure that if there's particular issues around that module or program to do with academic writing, that we could bring in people from our learner development unit to make sure that kind of content was upfronted and delivered to students at that time when they needed it. So it was really about making sure the academics had a sort of more holistic look at their program, but also realized that there was a much wider team out there who could support them in this process. So as well as that partnership that we developed within the institution and working with the individual program teams and to deliver this change, we also had to work with Moodle Rooms as a partner, and they were a big partner in this process for us. As I said, we were working to very tight deadlines. So they were able to provide us from March, when we first chose them as our hosting and consultancy partner, to provide us with a sandbox. That allowed us to immediately start training our staff, so we could get an understanding for how the platform worked, but we could start delivering that training that was really essential for the module and program teams. They also came on site for us for a 5-day kickoff meeting, and again, I think that was really important because it allowed them to get an understanding of our culture and our aims, but also we could then work out an achievable project plan over that time of what was possible and what was achievable, and how we would integrate a lot of these other tools and platforms that exist across the institution. It was always backed up by sort of weekly calls, but they also came on site when we went live with our students, which I think for us gave us a lot of confidence in what we were trying to achieve and how we could achieve that. So this is some of the stuff that Javier covered in his talk, but we are provided with 3 hosted environments from Moodle Rooms. We have 2 sandbox environments, one that we use for all our staff development and academic training. It's that safe space where academics can go and they don't have to worry about accidentally causing issues with a live course or with students who are currently running. And then we have a sandbox which our IT and student services use to test all our integrations with our other student systems and obviously our live platform. I think another thing that's really important for us is that these data centers are hosted within Europe, so they meet all the European privacy laws and data protection laws, something that's very important for us. But actually more than that, it means that when we're being upgraded at times that kind of suit us and suit us as an institution. And this is what's really enabled us to move, I think, quite rapidly from signing that contract to then going live with our students and our academic community. And it allowed us to focus on that transformation piece and working with those program teams rather than focusing on the technology and having to think about how the back end and all that, the parts of the system worked. So one of the tools that's been really important for us in that process, I think, is Conduit. Conduit's a tool that Moodle Rooms provide to allow you to really quickly link up to different student record systems or different platforms that exist around the institution. So it does all our creation of our users, it does our course creations, our enrollments. But one of the big things that it does for us is our end-of-year rollover. So we give access to our courses for the whole time that a student studies at Middlesex. And each year we just take a copy of the previous year's course and move it over to the new academic year. Now, this year we created, I think, over 2,000 courses in that process. It happened in 2 days, and we didn't have to take the system offline. So when the academics came back, their content was all there, and they were ready to start working with their new cohort of students. And our new academic year starts next week, so we'll go back to that, and hopefully everything will be going smoothly. But we know that obviously the courses and the spaces are there ready. So just to give you a bit of context of the sort of scale, as I said, we've created over 2,000 courses within Moodle that will be running for the academic year for 2015-16. But we also have quite a large number of other spaces, so spaces that exist across the institution, maybe linking different faculties or different departments within faculties. and really giving the opportunity for students to collaborate across schools. So something that we never did before in our old platform, it's offered us that opportunity. And again, we have all our academic staff and all our service staff enrolled in Moodle because they also use it to deliver staff development courses and inductions and these kinds of things for our student and staff community. So I think the other area that we've been really supported in is this idea of upgrades, and I know from experience of other institutions in the UK that this is something that they've really struggled with, and it's really this combination of the kinds of plugins that they're adding into that Moodle environment to enhance the capabilities, and then having to go through these really painful upgrade processes where the system's down for days at a time and students and academics can't get into it. It causes untold grief for me and my department if that was the case. So the way that Moodle rooms handle those processes is something that's really important for us. So as Javier said, we're upgraded twice a year, but it's at times that really suit us during the summer when most of our students are on holiday, and the day after Christmas, so Boxing Day for us, which is another national holiday. You know, that's just fantastic. It's something that we don't have to concern ourselves with. But more importantly than that, all the things that we've integrated within that system are going to work when we come back to them. We don't have to worry about plugins falling over because they're not supported by the community. That's done by Moodle rooms. And another area I think that it's really worked for us is that we have a number of integrations with companies who provide ebooks, Thales Aspire, Cortex, and working with Moodle rooms has allowed us to get them to create plugins for us. So they're plugins that they have bared the cost for. We haven't had to worry about it. The development work's been done by them. But using sort of Moodle Rooms' global presence and the fact that they have a large community and a large number of users, we're able to leverage that to actually get really good opportunities for ourselves as an institution. So just to sort of finish up, I think if I look at some of the sort of key factors for success within Middlesex and how we achieve this, I think it was about building those effective relationships with not only the academic community within the institution, so that hub and spoke model that we work to with the academic developers, and the team that we put together to bring in people like our library and student services and to bring in the learner development unit and the academic development aspects of our institution, but also building relationships with people like Moodle rooms who are able to support us through that process. And our online learning environment is a key platform for us. We have about 60,000 logins a month into that platform, so it's one of the most widely used, and there's an expectation that it's always available. So again, this idea that we know that we have a hosted, reliable solution that's backed up, that has disaster recovery, and that is regularly upgraded and new functionality added to it. So that's really our journey at Middlesex and the processes that we've gone through. Again, I think I'll be around during the coffee break, so if I've spoken too quickly, I do apologize for that. But I can answer any questions that you've got then, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your very interesting speech. And now, the last speaker that will speak about learning analytics, and Andy Ramsden. Andy Ramsden now is a strategic consultant within strategic services of Blackboard, but before that he worked in different UK universities, and so he was the e-learning development manager at University campus of Suffolk, the head of e-learning at the University of Bath, and the virtual learning environment operational manager and learning technology advisor at the University of Bristol. So you can see that all this role included the responsibility of using the strategies for connecting technology and education supported by it. So I give you the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I do appreciate I'm standing or sitting between you and a coffee and a well-deserved break, so I shall be quite quick, okay? I do appreciate that. Firstly, to help me, I've got some questions for you. So a quick show of hands. Who has heard of learning analytics? A couple of hands. Some have heard of learning. And those that have heard of learning analytics, the few of you, do you feel confident that you could explain it to another teacher, another academic, what it is and why it's important. Yeah, so there's a few there. So if you did spot that gentleman there, he'd be a good one to talk to at the break. The other question I've got is, who is a teacher? Who's an academic or faculty? Who's a frontline teacher? Okay, there's a few of you in here. Great, brilliant, thank you. My aim for this session is very briefly to give you an insight into something that's been discussed across boardrooms in UKHE. So it's a really important factor in UKHE now, learning analytics, and it's grown slowly, but the last few years there's been a significant momentum and investment in it. So something's happening about that. But I'm trying to explain it from the context of the lecturer, the academic, the faculty. What can you do about it, and why do you want to get involved now within the journey? Okay, so I'm not going to talk strategic, not my usual bit. I'm going to try and align the question of what is earner learning analytics, why do you need to get involved now from a very practical perspective. That's my plan. Okay. Right, so to give you that context of why it's important, there's a couple of quotes there. Well, one from Martin Harrow, and then there's also one from Davenport et al., which is the definition. The thing from, if you've not come across the JISC before, which you probably haven't, is the JISC is one of the most influential, largest funders of practical projects in UKHE and colleges. So when they get interested in something, lots of money follows it, lots of initiatives start. They're informed by, strongly informed by, Department of Education, various ministers, Minister for Universities. So it's a very, very important group. And you see there Martin Harrow, who's one of their, I think he's a chief executive, clearly stating that they feel, that organisation feels, learning analytics for UK universities over the next few years is actually going to radically change and alter our learning technologies. So we're already seeing from the UK perspective, it's strategically important. This is big. This is something that's coming along there. And I'm going to try and tweak it there. The other thing, if you just to give you some context of, well, why are they thinking it's so important, is the definition from Davenport, which clearly states then, and I've highlighted the bits in bold. The key things for me about the thing is that we're trying to analyse educational data. So the data that Phill showed you about that from the X-ray. We want to, they're trying to analyse that data to provide actionable information. So there's no point just reporting the data. You are going to use this data, or the UK Education is trying to use data to answer key questions. Questions such as, are my students engaged? Is my learning design effective? Is there a relationship about what I'm asking them to do in Moodle or Learn or any other platform? If you think of Alex, all those recognised platforms, are they actually turning into genuine learning for the student? Are students attending sessions? Is there a relationship between the number of times they go to the library, the books they get out, the work they complete online to their progression? So these are big questions we need to understand about retention, academic adoption, and it's the expectation that learning analytics will help answer those questions. So that's why it's important in the sense there. That this, I always feel, is quite a challenge then from, if I'm an academic, a faculty, a lecturer, they're big questions and I'm a very small person, a small cog in a big machine. So what can I do about it? And what should I be doing about it now? Or am I just going to wait and see it develop and see how it happens? And this, I'm hoping, will be a drum roll for you here that are supporting academics, supporting curriculum, or if you are actually an academic, to get involved. Get involved now, because the key, as you've seen from my title, is the realization that learning analytics is, the questions it's trying to answer is only as good as what the learning designs you come up with. So if you're coming up with effective learning designs, that's going to give us good, reliable data, which is going to go into your X-rays, is going to be then taken back. You're going to be able to answer those questions. The institution's going to be able to use that data to answer other questions. So the key is, as a stakeholder group, is the academics, is how you design your activities and what tools you use in Moodle strongly influences the answers to those questions. So we've got a bit of a relationship going there then. So you've got the learning design, which is the bit that we're really happy with as academics. I'm comfortable with that. I design learning activities all the time. Then I've got to map it to what Moodle will let me do the right tools for the job, the affordances of the technologies. And then, from my perspective as the lecturer, I'm looking at this stage at enhanced reporting, and later on that will feed in with X-ray and other tools to much more predictive analytical things. So at this stage, there is a key role for you to get involved. And I'd strongly advise you to do that. So how we've been doing that in the UK and across various sectors is this rather scary diagram, which actually is what Phill showed you. You know when Phill showed you that screenshot with, there were cards on it, there were post-it notes, there were scribblings from Vietnam. That's a 2-day workshop that we run called Viewpoints. It's been used extensively in Blackboard. It's been used extensively in the UK, non-Blackboard as well. And what Viewpoints does is to say, I've got these technologies, I have Moodle. Moodle has hundreds of tools within it. I need to combine them in a way that gives me something meaningful to be able to enact on. So what I've given you here is the top one, which is typical assessment pattern, is a typical UK higher education assessment model. What we tend to do is we set them an essay, 3 or nearly 2/3 of the way through the course. They're given a big piece of work to do. They hand that in, we mark it, we take probably too long to give it back to the student with the feedback on, and then we set them an unseen exam. So as a learner, within that model, there's very little feedback to them about how they're progressing. So as an educationalist, I would say, well, that's not good. They need to know how they're progressing. They need to know how they're doing to make better decisions in the future for them. And also in terms of learning analytics or X-ray or anything like that, the reporting, the enhanced reporting, with an essay and an unseen exam, I've got no way of collecting information in my 400 engineer first year course with 400 students on. I've got no way of collecting information to do anything actionable. So how can you address that within the tools you've got and approaches? The bottom one is the redesigned assessment plan. And the idea of this is that's the outcome of Phil's picture, of those cards, those post-it notes. And the way we create those, or in fact get you, the lecturers, to create those, is we've redesigned, and this touches on how Alex did it within his group of faculty, is you put them in a room for 2 days, faculty, a learning technologist, librarian, student or students, academic skills support, student services, those types of roles. You put them in, you identify from the academic team what is the question, what are the sets of problems they want to address, and then you go through a very systematic, regimented 2-day workshop, which creates that diagram, and then you map it to a flow, a time flow. So you can see here, what we've done with this one, which is a mock-up from my last university, university I worked at last, is we've taken this idea that the things in blue, online learning activities, that's not the academic's role. We've got other teams that build those, or we've been using other resources to do it. Librarians run the sessions about how to find information sources. Academics don't need to do that. So the librarians go off and create those. But we include them within the context. I'm an economist, so when I get my librarians to do it, when I was lecturing, I would want my context there. I want economic references, economic journals, so it's embedded there. Then we break it down. Instead of a large essay, we use tools such as the quiz engine, because the quiz engine is great. It collects lots of wonderful data, and I can action that data. I see my cohort results. I can see where they've done well and what questions they've done badly on, and then I go next week, I deal with the questions they've done badly. So I reconnect and give them the feedback loop there. Instead of doing one large essay, I break my essay down, and I use the online submission tools, which lets me use rubrics, marking grids, feedback, structured data feedback, which again I can analyze through X-ray or I can analyze through my Moodle Rooms reporting tools. And then we're also really interested in the UK in things like the clickers in the classroom, the voting technologies, because 80% of UK education is face-to-face. So if that's the main point you talk to the students, that flipped classroom model, that's where I want the activities to go on. I want them to click I want to see what they're saying. I want to respond to that. And that, again, is a data collection point that you can bring in to your reporting tools as well. So that's very briefly a sort of an idea then of, hopefully, before coffee, getting across this sense that learning analytics is very, very big in the UK, increasingly important. Money's following it. It follows the student in the UK, so it's very, very important across the sector. But even though it looks at the top level as questions that academics shouldn't or may not think it's not their problem, they don't need to be involved. What we're trying to do with institutions in Blackboard and other organisations is to say, well, actually, this is only as good as your academics and their use of the technology-enhanced learning tools. So that's where you now need to put the emphasis. So where can you take this from? Well, these can be looked at a number of levels. Yes, as you'd expect, within the UK, we're looking at this in the role of Blackboard as well, looks at this through our strategic services and says, well, do we want to look at academic adoption of Moodle or Learn, or do we want to look at online programs? And we follow a very similar pattern, top level, overview, a strategic review, where are you, where do you want to go, how can you get there, and then that, as you imagine, drips through. So that's the top level down from Blackboard. But what you can do is what, of course, you've been doing over the last 2 days, 3 days, is to use the tools, but most importantly, as you've seen from Alex's presentation, is share the stories. What worked, but much more importantly, what didn't work within your context, so that your colleagues at another institution don't make the same mistakes as you. So there's two ways of approaching it. The bottom up, which is all about your institutions, your communities, and the top down, which comes in at the strategic levels, the reviews, the planning, and the design phases. And hopefully I've got us back on track for coffee. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, very interesting. And I think that today we had, I want to thank all the speakers because we had a different point of view, but all very interesting, about this complex, rich world that is the education supported by technologies with a lot of challenges, but it also plenty of a big amount of opportunities. So I know there now is coffee time, but if there is one quick question, we can just use a couple of minutes to discuss. Otherwise, we could continue the discussion with them with a cup of coffee, Italian coffee in the end. Okay, so thanks again. And let's go to coffee.
Thank you.